Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Erin, and it's been a minute. So I think the way that this is gonna work is the video that you saw before this was my winter book haul, and I know technically winter's not over, but to me, winter is over after Christmas is over because that's the only time I like to acknowledge winter as a season. Anyway, I have a cowering dog in the back because she doesn't like the stand that I put my camera up on. But she's fine, I promise. It makes me feel so guilty, but I really want to film for you guys. So here we are. You're okay. We're good now. She's laying down. Anyway. So this is my December wrap up for 2018. It's going up really late and I apologize for that, but at least I'm getting it up. Bonus points for that, right? So in order to complete and achieve my Goodreads goal of 2018, which was 52 books, I needed to read 5 books in the month of December, and I did exactly that, which is so exciting. Because I am a very competitive person and goals mean a lot to me, which is why this year I only set one, and it's like killing me that I only set it as one so that I could track everything, but it's like killing me that I don't have a goal and I don't have like a limit, or like I should read X amount of books during this, or I should read X amount of books during 1 month so that I can keep on track. Like, the fact that I don't have a physical goal is driving me crazy. But I'm gonna try and just let it happen. It's gonna be really hard, but we're gonna make it through. So, okay. So, I think the first book that I finished in the month of December was actually Paper Girls 2 by Brian K. Vaughan and Cliff Chang, I think is how you pronounce his last name. I apologize sincerely if that is not. So I read the first volume back in October, and I think I gave it like maybe 2 stars, maybe 3 if I was feeling real generous, but I didn't really like it. But I had the second one, and I said that I was gonna finish it later that day on Halloween, I think, or maybe I read it in November. I don't even remember when I read it, but I never ended up finishing this one, and so I decided to finish it in the month of December. And I didn't like this one either, but the cliffhangers get me. I don't understand what's going on in this series, which I think is why I don't like it, because I can't really appreciate everything that they're doing because I don't know what's happening. I'm not new to fantasy. Like, I read a decent amount of fantasy, I think. I think that I read a decent amount of fantasy. I really, really like fantasy, and I'm lost in this. So if you're just starting out with graphic novels, would not recommend this one because I'm lost, completely lost. So I gave this one 3 stars because the cliffhanger was good and the ending sucked less than the rest of it. And I will be continuing, as you saw in the previous video, but I just don't understand. I'm not even kidding. If you've read this series before, tell me what's happening down below in the comments, because I do not for the life of me understand what is going on. That's not a joke. That's not me trying to be funny. I'm so confused when I'm reading this, and a book series has never made me feel so intellectually incompetent in my life. I need help. So please tell me what's going on because I'm so lost. But this was the first book that I read. Maybe not the best start to the month, but it's fine. The next book that I read I don't have physically with me, and that was because it is an audiobook, and it was, what's it called? The Deal of a Lifetime by Frederick Bachman. 5 out of 5 stars. I was looking up Frederick Bachman's books for some reason. I don't remember why. And he gets such good narrators. First of all, how does he manage? Like, the narrators for The Deal of a Lifetime and Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer, they're different, but their voices suit the stories so perfectly. I don't understand. Anyway, The Deal of a Lifetime is a story told on Christmas Eve, but it's not like a Christmas story. And I was listening to it while I was wrapping presents under the impression that, oh, it's told on Christmas Eve, it's gonna be a Christmas story. No, it wasn't. It was the story about relationships and a father, like, it's basically a really, really long letter or voicemail, I think is how it's prefaced, from a father to his son that he hasn't had the best relationship with, and the father, like, kind of almost like reminiscing and also admitting to all of his shortcomings to his son in this voicemail. And it's about time and death, and how far we will go for the ones that we love and what relationships really mean. And it's really, really insightful, and it's beautifully written, which is saying something because it's a translated work. I apologize, my camera cut off because I didn't have enough storage. Anyway, it's a translated work from, I believe, German, and it's incredible, and I loved it, and it was so insightful, and I didn't cry, but it definitely emotionally moved me. I don't know, it hit a nerve, and I definitely recommend it. It's really insightful about relationships and time, and I think it's really important. I think a lot of his books are really important, but his novellas, especially if you need something quick, if you have a little drive, those would be really, really good books to start with, because that's what I started with, and now I'm like in love with him. The next book that I read was Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I don't know what compelled me to pick this up. I was just like, you know what, let's try it. And I read this in like, I think a day and a half or so. I read this the night before we left for New York City, and also I finished it on the train ride to New York City, and I loved it. It was so good. It's a high fantasy. Most people have read it by now, but it's about these people who have powers, and they're called Grisha, and this one girl, is that a spoiler? Oh yeah, okay, it's not. This one girl doesn't know she's a Grisha, and then she finds out she is, and it's so cool, and I loved it. And there's kind of a love triangle, but then there's not. It's really, really good. I highly recommend it. You definitely all need to go read it if you haven't already. Most people have, though. I'm very excited to start on the next one. I don't know when I'm going to be doing that, but I really want to soon so that I don't forget everything that's happened, because I'm really bad at continuing series. It's right there, and I hope to finish it very, very soon. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars, by the way. The next book I do have with me, and that was A Court of Frost and Starlight. I forgot which order I read them in. I read this one first. By Sarah J. Maas. I gave this one, I think, like 3.5 maybe out of 5 stars, because this is definitely a book where you're literally just checking up on the characters, which I thought that I enjoyed, but literally nothing happened in this book. It was just them like shopping around, and it was good because I read it closer to Christmas time. I think that this book would have done better had they published it closer to Christmas time, because it takes place around winter solstice, which is practically like their version of like Christmas, which is good, and I really liked it, but it was also really boring, and it took me months to get through it because I just never wanted to pick it back up. So I gave it like 3 out of 5 stars because it's definitely not one that you have to read by any means. Like, I thought that maybe there might be a little bit of character development, not so much that like if you jump into the next one without reading this one, you were gonna miss a ton, but something, like some sustenance, but there wasn't any, and that was kind of frustrating to read because it just kind of felt like a waste of time. I don't know. Read this if you really, really want to, but if you are just like, yeah, maybe skip it. Just skip it. Because I was like, I really, really want to read this, and it still came out being like a 3 out of 5. It wasn't worth it. In my opinion. And I'm a pretty big fan of the series. But there are other people who really, really enjoyed it. And that's fine. And then the last book that I read is on my phone. I read it on ebook because it was like $3, I think, for the day, which was insane. And that was Letters to the Lost by Bridget Commemorer. And I read it in a day again. It was so good. So this is about a girl who recently lost her mom. And, well, not recently. It's been a few months, but it still feels fresh. And she is writing letters to her, just to her grave. Like, her mom is not receiving these letters, obviously. But she writes letters to her mom and just puts them by her grave like you would with flowers, just because it helps her feel like she still has some sort of connection with her mom. And there's this one guy, and his name is Declan Murphy, and he got into an accident and has to do community service. And so his community service is like mowing the... Alright, I really have to finish the video up because my camera cut off again because the storage was full again. Anyway, so it's about these two people and they're lost. And they're really suffering from depression, and this guy finds this girl's letter and writes back to her. And they start writing letters to each other and leaving them on this tombstone back and forth. And then they exchange emails and they start emailing each other. And it's literally like, you've got mail. But it also really reminded me of, what's the book called? I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson, which is one of my favorite books of all time. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars, Letters to the Lost. Gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It is so good. It is one of the best contemporaries I've ever read. It had a lot of twists that I predicted, but I love it so much. Murphy Napier recommends this book all the time, and I 100% agree with the recommendation. You should read it. It's so, so good, and it's so worthwhile, and it's just so compelling. I don't know. I love it. I love it so much, and it, again, really reminds me of I'll Give You the Sun. So if you're looking for like a book similar to that, because I needed this book after I read I'll Give You the Sun, because that book Hangover was so bad. I'll Give You the Sun is one of my favorite books of all time, if you did not know. It's so good. It's so good. And I really, really love this one. Anyway, that's it. I really hope that you guys enjoyed. I'm sorry that this was probably annoying. If you're curious as to what I'm currently reading at the time of filming this, I'm currently reading The Me I Meant to Be by Sophie Jordan. I'm really enjoying it. Hopefully we'll finish it today. I have like 80 pages left. I have to go before my camera craps out on me again, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Bye, guys!